Imagine an aeroplane that was born old, a design that, from the moment it took off for the first time, already belonged to the past. The year is 1923, in a Soviet Union still recovering from years of civil war, where engineers are desperately trying to create a naval air force from the ashes. Today, I'm going to tell you the story of the Grigorovich M-24, a wooden seaplane that represented both the ambitions and limitations of early Soviet aviation, an aircraft that flew for just 5 years before disappearing into the darkness of history. Was it a failure? Or did it simply arrive at the wrong time? Stay tuned until the end, because we are going to discover why this forgotten biplane teaches us more about engineering and survival than many successful designs. To understand the M-24, we first need to understand the chaos from which it emerged. The year is 1922. The Russian Civil War has officially ended. The country is devastated. Soviet naval aviation is practically non-existent. What are they working with? Designs from the Tsarist-era, aircraft that were already outdated during the First World War. Some foreign surplus of dubious quality. Nothing that could be considered a modern fleet. And here comes our protagonist, Dmitry Pavlovich Grigorovich, an engineer who already had experience designing seaplanes. His previous creation, the M9, had been relatively successful at the time, but we are talking about a design from 1915. 8 years may not seem like much, but in aviation, especially at that time, it is a whole technological generation. Grigorovich faced a dilemma. He needed to create something new, but with limited resources, a precarious industry and technology that was already falling behind. His solution? To evolve the M9. Take what worked and adapt it to the new engines available in the Soviet Union. The M-24 project was officially launched in 1922, and by 1923, it was ready for its first flight. So what exactly is the M-24? Visually, it is a classic biplane of the era. 2 overlapping wings, a completely wooden structure covered with plywood and fabric. But its most distinctive feature is its engine configuration. The M-24 used a pusher design, meaning the propeller is at the rear of the fuselage, pushing the aircraft forward rather than pulling it. The engine was a 12-cylinder Renault, or more likely, a Soviet copy of it. It generated 220 horsepower, which on paper sounds decent for the time. But here comes the first problem. This engine was heavy. It did not offer a good power-to-weight ratio for a fuselage that, when fully loaded, became quite heavy. With this power, the M-24 could reach approximately 150 kilometers per hour. That's not combat speed, but remember that this was not a fighter. It was a coastal reconnaissance and maritime patrol seaplane. Its job was to watch, observe, and report. Its flight ceiling was 4,150 meters, a reasonable altitude for its functions, and it could stay in the air for approximately 4 hours, which gave it an acceptable patrol radius for coastal missions. The crew consisted of 2 people, the pilot and an observer who also served as a gunner. For defense, it carried a mobile machine gun, usually 7.62 millimeters, mounted in the front seat. It was not a combat beast, but at least it had something to defend itself with if it ran into trouble. The hull, designed to land on water and float, was made entirely of wood. And this is where cracks in the design began to appear, literally. In engineering, every design decision has consequences, and the M-24 had many. Problem number 1, longitudinal instability. The aircraft had control difficulties during certain phases of flight. We don't know exactly when, but this is a dangerous characteristic for any aircraft, especially when operating over water. An unstable seaplane can be deadly during takeoff or landing, which are precisely the most critical moments. Problem number 2, structural fragility. The wooden hull, although standard at the time, had serious drawbacks. It was prone to leaks. Imagine this. You are patrolling the Black Sea or the Baltic. You land to inspect something, or simply to rest, and your aircraft starts taking on water. In addition, prolonged exposure to salt water quickly deteriorated the wood and plywood. This meant constant maintenance, frequent repairs, and a limited operational life. Problem number 3, technical obsolescence from birth. And this is perhaps the most fundamental problem. The M-24 was essentially an evolution of the M9, a design from 1915. It's 1923, and the rest of the world is moving towards metal monoplanes, more aerodynamic designs, stronger structures. The very concept of a wooden biplane with a propeller drive was becoming obsolete. Europe already had more advanced seaplanes. The M-24 was competing in a race it had already lost before it started. Problem number 4, the engine. I already mentioned that the Renault was heavy, but there's more. It didn't offer an optimal power-to-weight ratio. This means that you were carrying a lot of extra weight for the power you got in return. In aviation, especially in seaplanes where every kilo counts in order to take off from the water, this is a serious problem. All these problems together created an aircraft that, although technically functional, was never really exceptional in any way. So where did the M-24 serve? Did it see combat? The answer is, not really. The M-24 never participated in large-scale military conflicts. Its service was much more mundane, but no less important. Border surveillance and coastal patrols in the Black Sea and the Baltic Sea during the interwar period. Think about it. The Soviet Union had miles and miles of coastline to protect. They needed eyes in the sky, or in this case, eyes that could splash down when necessary. The M-24 fulfilled that basic function. Approximately 40 units were manufactured. It's not mass production, but it's not insignificant for a country that was just rebuilding its industrial capacity. These 40 aircraft flew routine missions, patrols, reconnaissance, perhaps training exercises. Nothing glamorous, nothing that would appear in films. But this kind of boring work is 90% of what the military does in peacetime. However, the writing was already on the wall. While the M-24 patrolled the Soviet coastline, the world was moving on. New designs were appearing, designs that made the M-24 look more and more like a relic. By the end of the 1920s, specifically around 1928, the M-24 was withdrawn from active service. It had flown for just 5 years, from its maiden flight in 1923 to its retirement in 1928. 5 years is practically nothing in historical terms. What replaced it? More advanced designs such as the Savoia Marchetti S-16, which, curiously, was an imported Italian aircraft. And later came the developments of another designer, Beriev, who would take Soviet naval aviation to new heights. And here comes the saddest fact. No original examples of the M-24 remain today. 0. The aircraft has completely disappeared from physical existence. They only exist in photographs, documents, and in the historical memory of aviation specialists. So, what can we learn from the Grigorovich M-24? First, not all aircraft are destined for glory. Most designs in aviation history are exactly like the M-24, functional, temporary, forgettable. Second, context is everything. The M-24 was not a bad aircraft because Grigorovich was a bad designer. It was a limited aircraft because it was born in a country that was rebuilding itself from scratch with limited industry, outdated technology, and scarce resources. Third, and perhaps most importantly, sometimes in engineering, doing the best you can with what you have is enough. The M-24 did not win wars, break records, or revolutionize anything, but it served its basic purpose for 5 years, and that has its own value. It represented the last gasp of an era. Wooden flying, boats before the transition to metal structures. It was a dinosaur aware of its own imminent extinction. And perhaps that is the most human lesson it leaves us. Not all projects have to be revolutionary to be meaningful. Sometimes simply being present, fulfilling your function, and passing the baton to the next generation is enough. That is the story of the Grigorovich M-24, an aircraft that flew for 5 years and then disappeared, leaving barely a trace in aviation history. Did you know about this aircraft? What other forgotten designs would you like me to cover? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this trip to a dark corner of aviation history, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next video.